What's up, riders? Kevin Wilson with the BMX Podcast. Thank you very much for stopping by. Thank you very much for all the support and for sharing and liking videos. Today we have a very cool episode with Danny P and Danny V, and we're going to be going over a BMX magazine. What do you got going to Danny P? What year, what month we got going here, dude?
We're going to be looking at BMX Action, March 1986 today. Okay. I thought this is a good common ground for all three of us because I think we're all involved in 86. Okay. So, yeah, I figured that would be a good common ground for us.
So, for those of you that are new to the channel, Danny P is my frequent collaborator, frequent co-host, and Danny V is one of my most popular guests I've ever had. He's received a lot of positive feedback, so I thought I'd bring Danny V back on and we could talk about it. So thanks a lot, Danny, for coming on, man.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, guys, too.
All right, man. So at this point, Danny, what do you got going for us, bro?
All right, so we're going to go through some topics today. As I was going through the magazine, I figured rather than going page by page, I'd pick out a few things and we'd just talk about it and see what our thoughts are on that. Okay. And so the first topic, are you guys ready? This is going to be like a hard one.
Okay, all right.
All right.
I studied for this episode, man.
As we know, there were several publications in the 80s that we all looked at, but the two most popular probably is BMX Action and then BMX Plus, right? So these would probably have to be the best ones, right? So I wanted to go kind of through the pros and cons of both magazines, and I'll tell you my opinion on these, and then I'll let you guys kind of go from there. For me, BMX Action is always number one. Absolutely. And then BMX Plus was a close second. Now, the reason that I lean towards BMX Action is because I like Bob Osborne. I liked R.L. Osborne. I love the BMXA trick team. Everything involved with BMX Action felt really genuine to me. And I felt very connected to this magazine. Like I could relate to everything going on in this magazine. So also the pictures in this publication were nuts. Bob Osborne, Wendy Osborne, they just had some of the greatest photos. Now, BMX Plus. My thing with BMX Plus is this is very well laid out. And the magazine cover itself is just amazing. I love it. The pictures in this are also great. It had Radical Rick, which BMX Action is void of Radical Rick. That was probably my favorite thing about this. I think this was more tuned towards racing, if I'm going to say, because BMX Action started going a lot of freestyle at a certain point in the mid-'80s. So that's my opinion on it. If I had to pick one over the other, I'm going to say BMX Action is going to be my winner on this one. How do you guys feel about that?
Danny, you go first, bro.
Well, from what he just said, I was happy to get my hands on any of them, and it was usually at my local 7-Eleven or Safeway, Bellevue, Washington. I grew up on the east side of Seattle. So I was just happy whatever magazine rack had it, I would buy either one. I didn't have a subscription in the mail. I just had money on me or whatever at the time. And I was like, oh, cool, a new issue. I was so stoked, as they say in surfing, dude, to get that. Yeah. So it was, I liked them both, but I want to hear the finesse points from Danny P here on that. I'm just here to learn and educate myself as well. But I was happy to have either one, to be honest with you guys.
Yeah, dude, I swiped whatever one was in front of me to get my hands on, dude.
No doubt. No doubt.
Yeah.
They were cool, man. And you're right, they're the top two. I can't think of another magazine except the ABA one with the points list and that stuff. And those were all black and white photos, you know.
Super BMX was pretty big. Super BMX was right there, probably easily top three. And then ABA released something called Bicycles and Dirt Magazine. Yeah, that was a short-lived publication. Honestly, it wasn't a bad publication. It just didn't have the legs to compete with like these. But I thought it was pretty decent. I've actually have a few issues of those. And then what do you think, Kevin? What's your overall choice if you had to pick one over the other?
I obviously, see, man, I'll be honest with you, man. I like to go against the grain. And when everybody tells me that BMX Action's it, that just makes me go, oh, man, I mean, I'm not a Radical Rick fan at all. I probably don't know nothing about, I saw the Radical Rick episode on Dirty Knobs, but Radical Rick never did nothing for me. But I kind of like BMX Plus a little bit better, maybe. I don't know. I'm kind of jaded because on Scott Breithop's Facebook page, his Wikipedia page, it says that he was one of the co-founders of BMX Plus. Did you know that?
No, did not know that.
Okay, I've been burned by Wikipedia before, right? But
Yeah.
Wikipedia says that Scott Breithop was one of the founders of BMX Plus. I don't know if it's true, but that's what it says. Which one had which magazine had the parting shot, and which one had the odds and endos? Do you remember?
BMX Action has outtakes, which look like that.
Okay.
Okay, and then BMX Plus. This is a 90s edition, so I don't think it doesn't have anything on here. I want to say that I feel that this one had the exit one. I don't know. BMX Plus probably had something. I just can't remember.
One magazine had odds and endos, and the other one had parting shot. I just don't remember which one.
Odds and endos was in this one.
Okay,
BMX.
so the other one was parting shot.
Yeah.
Did you like the parting shots of the odds and endos, Danny V?
Yeah, I remember some of the letters to the editor and the final shots. Those were pretty cool. But I have a question. Did BMX Action come out first?
Yes.
Oh, did it?
I think it did, but I may be wrong.
Yeah.
It seems like I'm drawn to that one a little more. Just of the two, I don't know, but they were both good. Again, like it's kind of Ford versus Chevy, but they're both in there, you know. So I don't know. Yeah.
If anybody wants to drop that in the comments,
that'd be a good one to answer. I don't know.
Well, yeah,
so maybe BMX Action, but I don't know. So.
Maybe in the comments, someone could, when they watch this, they can say what started first. I gotta believe it was BMX Action, but yeah, dude, I mean, I like them both. To be honest with you, I would steal either one that I could get my hands on from Safeway. But but ironically, what we used to do was we used to cut out whatever pictures we liked, right? And we used to get, some people had the trapper keepers at high school.
Yeah.
Like the clear thing where you could put pictures in, where we would put the pictures in our trapper keepers, or we would get like on the regular like a Peachy folder or something like that. We used to put the picture on the Peachy folder and cover it with clear Scotch tape, and then cut around it. That way we would have a picture of whatever the odds and endo was or whatever. And that's what we used to go to school with pictures of both BMX Plus and BMX Action in there.
Hey, the other thing, I haven't had my nose in a magazine for a while, except over at the bike shop. Those are old ones, but they had centerfolds too, right?
Some of them, sometimes.
Which one? No?
Yeah, both of them every once in a while.
Okay, I thought so. It's been a while. Yeah. Just racking my brain. So okay.
Yeah, I got to tell you that you guys bring up a topic though that's pretty true for me as well. I didn't subscribe a lot. It was always like go to the local liquor store and see which one was on the newsstand. Or, if I went grocery shopping with my mom back in the day, I'm like, I'm going to go to the magazine rack. And I would see if I could find one. So that was 9 times out of 10, that's how I got it. But I can tell you, if you subscribed, you got the magazine much faster. You would get it before it was available on the newsstand. So there was like an advantage to subscribing. I just never really did it. It was very rare. It's only a couple times I actually subscribed. But that was a really good topic. So
did you know that, okay, I'm going to go out on a limb again. Okay, God knows I've been wrong. But I've been led to believe that bicycles and dirt was started after the feud that American Bicycle Association had with BMX Action, and that's why ABA started bicycles and dirt. Did you ever hear about that feud? No. Okay. All right. Okay. So here I go. So if I'm wrong, I apologize. This is a Wikipedia thing again. But apparently Bob Osborne was going to an ABA National. I think it was in Chandler. I believe it was in Chandler, Arizona. And ABA refused to let him have a pit pass to get into the national. So in recourse, Osborne banned ABA ads from BMX Action.
Wow.
So in response to that, ABA started their own magazine, which was called Bicycles with Dirt.
Are you kidding me?
No,
I didn't know that.
Wow.
So, anyways, that's what I saw on the internet. Now, the internet has burned me before, but I hope I got that right. But yeah, that's what I know.
I'm sure somebody will comment, man.
Yeah, I don't
Danny
know.
V, do you have your computer all the way up, Danny V? Your
Do I have
volume?
what? I'm
Your
sorry.
volume up? Your volume.
Let me check it. I'm sorry. That's as loud as it gets.
I
Can
can
you
hear
hear
him
me,
pretty
guys?
well.
You can hear?
Is it
Okay.
okay?
All right. Okay, cool. All right, what do you got
Yeah.
next, Danny P?
All right, let's go on to the next topic. So in 1986, Haro took its first stab at race bikes. So in this particular magazine, they covered what was considered the Haro RS1, and this is the opening ad of the magazine. This was the actual bicycle. So this was Haro's first stab at it. Now, I'm a little biased on it because I actually owned this bike, this exact model.
Okay.
You know, I saw this in a magazine, like it was probably this one, and I had to have it. You know,
Hey,
I think, yeah.
Real quick, is that a fade paint job, blue to black?
Yeah, it goes blue, black, chrome.
That's
all the way
awesome. Yeah, I remember that. I remember when those came out. I never had one, but I've got surfboards that do the fade. And cars do it too. It's cool.
Yeah,
That's pretty original.
You can tell that's Bob Haro's influenced by that color scheme on there.
Okay.
That's pretty epic. And, you know, this sold me. And, you know, you see this in the magazine and you go, oh my God, I have to have this bike. And so I remember having this conversation with my parents, and my dad's like, if you want a new bike, you have to sell your old one. You're not going to have two. You know, he didn't want me to be spoiled, you know, kind of learn how life works, you know. So I sold my bike and I got this one. So what I was going to ask you guys is, there's a couple topics about this bike. What did you think about Haro's first stab at race bikes? Also, how did you feel about Pete Lonkarovich leaving CW and joining Haro? Because he broke his contract to go to Haro. And in this actual magazine, it'll show that he was at the Grands, and midway through that race, he switched over to Haro gear and started racing on the Haro. Or I think he showed up in Haro gear is what it was. How do you guys feel about those two topics on that?
Danny V, you go first, dude.
Well, I don't know a lot of the inner details to really speak on it. I remember seeing Pistol Pete at a race at Sumner BMX, and I think he was in Haro. I think he was wearing Haro gear, but I don't remember what bike it was. I just remember it was a red frame thing. It could have been a CW. He could have been in between, but I didn't know enough about the intricacies of sponsorship. I'm just hearing from you guys, and I would leave it to you on that one. Sorry.
That's okay.
They were both
Did you like the
companies, but there's something clearly happened for him to switch. I don't know what it would be though.
It was money. I have a background story on that.
Okay, go ahead. Yes,
and I've had no contact with Danny P about this, right, Danny? I have no idea what you're talking about.
No.
So, anyways, did the bike run? I mean, did you like the bike, Danny? Were you happy with it, or did you leave it?
I loved it. I loved it. Now, there was a couple things I did do it, though. If you guys look at this bike, it came with 3-piece cranks. But the first time I raced it, I cased a set of doubles and I cracked the cranks on the first day. So that was a negative. The laid back seat post, I got rid of that and I went with a straight seat post. I didn't like the white seat, so I had a black Cashamax seat. And you notice how the grips are white? I removed those grips and I went with black Amy tries instead, because these were actually knockoff Amy's, by the way. And then the pedals I went with Suntour Bear Trap. So I had profile cranks with Suntours on here, straight seat post, and I changed some of the color scheme on it. But once I did that, I was super satisfied with it. I raced it for a few years, did really well on it. It felt a little on the heavy side because you can't really tell from the photo, but that down tube is pretty thick. So so the bike itself was a little bit heavier than my Skyway was, because I raced my Skyway with rims. I didn't use tough wheels, so it was pretty light. So to switch over to this bike was a little bit different, but this one was stiffer, and I was absolutely faster on that bike. So yeah, that's my opinion on it. I thought it was a great bike.
What bike did you give up to get that one?
The Skyway. Yeah, that was hard.
In retrospect, I think the Skyway would have been better, right? Or no?
That's why I still have one today. Yeah, because
hey, this is a minor point you just said, Danny.
Yeah.
About when you see the bike and right away you know you're hardcore BMX when you look at that thing and you go, I would take that off and put that on, and you know exactly what you need for you to dress it up, which really even goes to guitars or surfboards, cars. Right. Everything is kind of customized the way you want it, you know. And here it is again showing itself where you just know your stuff to even say that. Like I've rarely taken something right off the shelf, even a coat, right? Modify something maybe, you know. So
yeah, anyway, you know,
it's simple, but it's true.
Kind of goes back to like people nowadays are trying to restore these bikes to the stock form and say it's worth more because it's in its stock form. But how many of us actually kept it in its stock form? Like, you know,
really,
and that's
not really. It's like,
yeah,
right out of the shop, the seat's going to be sitted wrong. The pitch of the seat, you know, you want a little, you know, like you said, the sway back or the grips or what have you. If you favor a certain handbrake, I favored hutch pedals, you know, that they were cool, you know, but and again, I love the arguments between parts too. That's fun too. Kevin got me going with that. So, but yeah, so we definitely customize in BMX for sure.
Right. Yeah. What do you think, Kev?
I don't know much about the RS1. I believe that was one of the trivia questions you asked me during the last trivia episode about the RS1. But I always thought the Group 1 was much better looking or much better race bike from my perspective. I've had many Group 1s, never had an RS1.
Well, the Group 1, it's the Haro Group 1 RS1 because there was 3 versions of the Group 1. You had a RS1, RS2, RS3.
Really?
RS1,
okay. All right.
Yeah, RS1 was like the top of the line, and then it went down. RS2 was essentially the same bike, but it just didn't have like the 3-piece cranks and so forth. But if you look at some photos of Mike King, he's actually on an RS2 as opposed to the RS1, which I always thought was kind of unique. I thought maybe because he just likes the color combinations of the RS2 because the color combinations were a little bit different. And so that was my opinion on it.
You're telling me that RS1 in that picture is actually a Group 1 RS1 or the Group 1 came later?
See how it says Group 1 on the down tube?
Okay.
And then so they're all Group 1s, but there's different models of it. So you got your
when did they come up with the top two that went bent up towards the seat post? What was that? That's a Group 1 that I always thought about.
You're thinking of a much later model. This is like the original race bike.
Okay.
That came out with them. So that's probably where the confusion is on that.
All right. Well, anyway, the only thing I got on the P. Lonkarovich thing was that. Excuse me. Sorry, my hat came off. The only thing I have on the P. Lonkarovich thing is that he left CW for Haro, and I guess Roger Worsham at CW sent him I don't know if it's what you call a cease and desist or some sort of letter from a lawyer saying you better not show up at Haro here or something like that at the National, and he ignored it anyways. So I think it was more of a threatening type of thing. I don't think he ever got sued or whatever, but it's on Pete Lonkaravich's Wikipedia page. Once again, I hope it's correct. But that's all I know about that. I know that there was a big to-do about it.
Yeah, I think because CW invested a lot of money in Pete because they had a signature frame for him as well. And I know that Sean Texas was on CW, wanted his own signature frame, but CW was like, no, we already did that with Pete. We're not doing that again. Yeah. Yeah, so that was an interesting topic. Okay, this one, guys, this one's more of an opinion more than anything. Going on to our third topic, R.L. Osborne. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys something to chew on for just a second. Now, R.L. obviously got massive coverage, right? And he was on the BMXA trick team. He's a great freestyler. He's in the movie Rad. You know, my opinion on R.L., and I was going to ask you guys this. My opinion is he could have been a competitive racer. You know, we all seen him race the horse, right, Kevin? Yeah. And we all seen him on all the bikes that he tested.
On a red line, by the way.
Yeah, on a red line. You were right, by the way. So anyway, I always thought he was a very gifted rider and could have been a racer. I know that freestyle was really RL's thing, but in your guys' opinion, do you think he could have been a competitive racer up to the pro level?
Do we know for a fact that he never raced? He had to raced at one point, right?
I know he raced. I know that all of them started as racers. Buff, RL, Haro, they all started as racers. But I'm wondering if he would have taken it serious and took a real run at racing, what could he done? What could have he done? Because you watched him race the horse. He got a great snap. His riding technique is really good. So I'm like, could this guy have been a pro racer? I've been kicking that thing around for a while. I was going to talk about it on my own channel, but we'll just do it here.
Maybe not a pro racer, but he definitely could have been a great racer. Definitely competitive, I would think. Yeah, I would think that he would have smoked a lot of guys. What do you think, Danny?
Well, I think since he was one of the top dogs at the magazine, right? Wasn't he the publisher or the editor? So I would think that he probably had a lot of plates in the oven, so to speak, and he probably made a decision what he wanted to do and focus on. But I can't speak for him. This is all speculation, of course.
That's what
I don't know.
This is him during a test.
He probably fit a niche, you know, for the BMX thing of the magazine. Maybe that took a massive amount of time. I don't know. I would guess it would, you know. That's my
maybe
thought on that.
Maybe there was more money in the freestyle end of it for him, in advertising and sponsorship and things like that.
It just seems to me that he would have that, because in the 80s when those mags came out, we weren't even really in computers yet. They were just starting the real prehistoric ones, you know, the early Microsoft. So God knows what he was dealing with. Anybody really at that time. It was you can call it primitive, but
think about this. Would you rather compete for the top of the mountain against 100,000 other guys, or would you rather compete for the top of the mountain against 30 guys? Right?
Good point.
Compete against 30 guys against the top of the mountain.
Or Kevin, he's already on the top of the mountain in a way. I mean, not very many guys own casinos, but there's millions of gamblers. So I look at them in that category. So there you go.
Yeah.
My 2 cents, but you know.
Yeah.
I definitely would have loved to see it. Now it doesn't matter. We're all old. You know what I mean? But I would have loved to see what could he be competitive was always kind of running through my mind.
Yep.
Hey, can I share that? Can I retell that story about that interview I saw with RL?
Yeah, 100%.
So, Danny, I don't know if you've ever heard this before, but you know that RL did do very small portion of the Rad movie at the end, I believe. Some of the tricks at the very end of Rad, but he was approached at the beginning, and he was offered Eddie Fiola's role for stunt riding in Rad, and he turned it down. He said, "No, I'm not interested," because he was doing freestyle shows all across the country that time. I think with Mike Dominguez. And he was sitting in. Now I know for a fact. He said in the interview that I watched with RL, he said that he was in a hotel room in like the Midwest somewhere, and he got the call to be in the movie Rad, and that he was sitting in a bathtub with a bottle of Jack Daniels between his legs, and he goes, "No thanks, dude, I don't want it, man. I'm burnt out. I don't want to do the movie." And then they said, "Well, who do you think we should call?" And he goes, "Call Eddie Fiola. He'll do it." And then that's how Eddie Fiola got in the movie. That is from R.L. Osborne's mouth.
Wow. There you have it, 30 years later or whatever. So.
Well, I told the story before, but for the new people that haven't watched that video yet, now that's what R.L. said. Now, he does say that they brought him back at the very end. They came at him again, and he did do a couple stunts at the end. But all of that trick riding that Fiola did, he said that he told them to call Eddie Fiola. That's what he said.
Yeah,
Wow.
he's in the opening credits and ending credits of the movie doing Flatland.
Hey guys, I live here in Vista, California, so I'm next to Cardiff, where Haro lives. And I went into his office a couple years ago. He's an open door policy guy, and when I walked in, there was a mosaic on the wall of the scene from E.T. where all the kids on the bikes are going across Malibu at the hamburger joint, and like he was leading the group. It's like he's history too. We're talking movies now. I bought a T-shirt of the Haro hopping through the ring of fire, the bunny hop.
Yeah,
so, which is a pretty popular picture.
Bob Haro has an office that you went into?
Yeah. I don't want to I don't even want to dime him out. It's like he does, I think, a graphic design company or something. I'm sure he's online, but I think he's focused now on maybe bikes. I don't know. I can't speak for him, but I think he does something with like aerodynamics with motorcycles, like the backpacks and the helmets and stuff. But that's the extent of my knowledge. I just went in there and said hi, shook his hand, bought a T-shirt. He was really cool.
What was this?
He's like you guys, man. Just talking. He's just cool, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I talked to him at Frogtown for a few minutes. Super nice guy. I was trying not to bug him because everybody was trying to talk to him.
Yeah,
so I just I said, "Hey Bob, I love your art." Because he had all the artwork up, and I asked him, "Are you going to do another run of those Bell helmets?" Because a couple years ago he did an open face Bell helmet with the Haro visor, and he did a small run of those with signature on the back. And I'm like, I should have bought one of those. They weren't even that expensive, you know, and I didn't. So I was asking, "Are you going to do that again?" He goes, "Something's in the works." That's all he would tell me. And then I go, I better move on.
My younger brother, he's in the bicycle industry. He worked for GT many years, Powerlight, Auburn, but he recently left Felt and started his own company as a consultant. And Bob Haro's making e-bikes now, and my brother's working for Bob Haro, designing or the manufacture of e-bikes in Taiwan to bring them to the United States. So he go, "Yeah, dude, I was in a meeting with Bob," and he posted a picture on his Facebook the other day with him and Bob Haro and something like, "Hey, did you show Bob?" I said, "Hi," messing around with my brother. But yeah, so Bob Haro's, among other things, he's making e-bikes now.
You want to hear something that's completely off this topic? And it's so funny you brought this up, Kevin, because I've been working in the collection industry my whole adult life, and I worked for a company called Diversified Collection Services in the from the early 90s to the mid 2000s. And I was working in the Bay Area for this company, and it was owned by a guy named Jim Tracy. He was like a millionaire, right? And at the time, this was like 1993, he was developing his own e-bike. They were in the test phases of this thing. And I guess the prototype was too expensive and blah, 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 and the bottom fell out of it. And I'm like, holy crap, man, that guy was like 30 years ahead of the game and didn't even know it. And I still remember it because they're like, yeah, they're testing out this electric bike. They were riding it around the gym because we had our gym at the office. And I'm like, holy crap. It didn't dawn on me until I saw all these e-bikes running around. And I'm like, this dude is like, he was way ahead of his time, man. I was nuts to see that. You guys are you guys interested in e-bikes at all, by the way? Is that something you guys are?
Only the ones that look like dirt bikes. I can't stand those Huron things.
Carlsbad. Huh? Oh, did I cut you off? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying that I surf every morning in Carlsbad, down at Tamarack, and there's tons of kids, the Groms that come surfing, and they're all on the e-bikes. We call them the lithium crew. And I mean, there's just like every you can throw a rock and hit one with your eyes closed. There's so many. I mean, every kid's got a legal moped, you know. It's basically a legal moped, you know.
Yeah. But there's two different types. So there's the one that's the ugly looking one that's just kind of like a cruiser. But then they got the ones that look like dirt bikes with the suspension, with the whole 9 yards. Those are the badass ones. I like those.
Those are
and when they're all black, they kind of look like when you drive by, it's like, is that a downhill or oh shit? It looks like a skinny enduro, you know, but it's an electric bike, and they're quiet. You're like a ninja. I mean, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe one day I'll get one. I don't know if I get one. I'm afraid I'm going to like it too much, and I'm not going to want to.
I'm like that. I'm like that with surfing. Like, do I want to get on a foil board? It would be cool to fly, but I like paddling and longboarding. So same idea. It's like maybe.
Yeah.
But I'm just gonna watch for a while.
All right, man. You guys
I like technology. I mean, I had an electric skateboard. I gave it to my nephew. Those are pretty cool. But I like my little folder bike. I got a little turn, the German folder bikes, and so yeah, I like doing it on my own. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah. The electric skateboard, man, that scares the crap out of me. Can you imagine that, Kevin, just hitting the rock and face planting?
They have ones with big wheels.
Freaking acorn, dude.
Yeah.
An acorn, yeah.
All right, man. What else you got?
They have a single wheel one, and there's dudes flying around. They're probably going 35, 40 miles an hour on there. You hit a rock. I don't know why they do that.
Definitely seen those. All right, so we're going to go on to the next topic. We're going to talk a little bit about freestyle bikes for just a second. So this is a typical freestyle bike that you would have seen in the 80s. This is Haro's version of it, right? So I was going to ask you guys a couple things. As why do you think freestyle was so popular in the early to mid 80s? Was it because it was more accessible for the average kid? Because you don't need a membership, you don't need to travel to races. You can just go outside and freestyle. Or can you hear me, Kevin? Because I think Danny lost me.
I can hear you.
All right. I'll start again. Can you hear me now, Danny?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got you guys. I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. So the freestyle bikes, I'm trying to figure out why was there so much hype? Was it because they were accessible? Was it because any kid could do it? Was it because you don't need a membership? You don't have to go travel to races? I never really understood it because when you look at a freestyle bike, it appears super heavy to me. It doesn't look like it's a lot of fun to ride because it's basically a tank. But man, they sold 1 million of these things. So I don't know if you guys, what your guys' thoughts on this? Was it just a fad? What do you think?
I guess I'll go. Go ahead, Danny.
Okay. I never was into them really. I remember seeing them at my school. Like kids would show up, they'd be the tough wheels, pegs, handlebars. I remember when that cable came out where they could 360 the bar, the handlebar would spin. I thought that was pretty cool. But I remember lifting one. They were kind of lunky, and it wasn't my thing. I was like about trying to not be kooky, finesse, speed jump, trying to be Ronnie Anderson, basically copycat mode and all the stuff we talked about, with our dirt track and stuff. So, just I had my heroes. I tried to emulate those guys as best I could. And so I guess the answer was I wasn't into it, but I did think it was cool. I liked the pool work and the half pipe shows. They'd come around. Mike Dominguez came to Bellevue. We talked about that a couple episodes ago. Just half pipe tricks in the parking lot. I thought it was pretty cool, but it wasn't my thing. You know what I mean? I like the 20-inch racer, the 24. So, yeah.
What do you think?
So, Danny, when you say freestyle, you're talking street, you're talking pools, you're talking vert, or everything, and just a generalized term, everything?
This was probably the most popular type of freestyle bike that was sold. So if you go through, I mean, everybody had their own version, but it was basically this. And, with the POTS mod, the tough wheels, the laid back seat posts, the standing platforms, pegs, all this stuff that's going to make the bike weigh 50 pounds. So I was wondering, why the hell would somebody want to ride a bike that was that heavy when you can jump on a race bike and just fly down the street? I mean, at least that's my opinion, but that's why I
can think of two names. I can think of Eddie Fiola, and he's the one that's responsible for driving freestyle into the mid to late 80s. I mean, I obviously there were freestyle before Eddie Fiola, but when Eddie Fiola was pictured in the I guess it was BMX Action when he was skying out 20 feet out of the pool with a 1-footer, and what that hit for publications. I mean, that has to have been the real birth of freestyle. And I guess that all of those parts that were on that bike, all of the POTS mods and the wheel, I think he had a problem with the tough wheels. I think he talked about, but all of those parts he really wanted or needed those platforms and the pegs and all that stuff to do the tricks that he was doing. And I guess everybody just kind of jumped onto that bandwagon to be like him. I would assume. I never rode pegs or never had any frame standers and other stuff. I did do curb endos, no footed curb endos, front end pogos, rock walks, tire tap 360s, but that's about the extent of my freestyling goes. But I got to think it was all because of Eddie Fiola, and that's a good thing, not a bad thing.
Yeah, definitely. Were you going to add to that, Dan?
I remember seeing him in that bull shot. I think he was on a bike with a yellow frame, or he was wearing yellow clothes. I just remember I vaguely remember this. I'm semi-adatic. I remember he had yellow. The bike had yellow, or he had yellow on. But I remember the angle of that picture, and he just looked so high in the air. It was pretty cool. I'm sure some of it was, I won't say trick photography, but the angle was crucial.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can make small stuff look big, but he literally looked like he was up there a story or two for sure.
I really think it was the visual aspect of the sport, because when you're looking at it in a magazine, maybe it just looked more impressive than 8 guys going into the first turn together. Even though we're all racers here, I mean, and we love racing, but I think the average kid picked up a magazine and go, oh, wow, because it just blows up in your face. And I think it's a lot. I think that popularity led on to the X Games later, where freestyle is massive in the X Games and things like that, where racing is like a very small piece of the whole BMX thing, which is kind of sad because we started it. You know what I mean?
Well, this might have something to do with it too. Now, Danny V, you may relate to this because this may relate to skating. I think you were a skater, right?
No, I was a BMXer. I surfed.
You never skated. Okay. Well, just like skating in the 80s, where there was no place to skate, they made their own. That was street skating. They were rails and ledges and stuff like that. And that's probably something similar to street BMX, where if you couldn't get to a pool, if you couldn't get to a track, you were riding the local rails, the local walls, or the local whatever you could ride, and that probably drove some of the street / flatland / freestyle, where you didn't have to get off the lip in a pool. So that probably had something to do with it, because let's face it, I mean, there are guys in different countries, different states, different cities in the Midwest that there wasn't pools, so they had to do the best they could and ride street. So that probably had something to do with it.
And also, we talked about this again with Kent when I think I was more into the canvas of the street, but kind of incorporating little jumps and turns to get my BMX racing better as I could at the level I was at, which was intermediate, of course. But I do remember trying to use the canvas of the street and the asphalt and the a berm off someone's driveway, I could speed jump that, and I could take that corner at this line if no car is coming. So
I know exactly what he's talking about.
Sort of
You ever have the ones?
I dabbled, but I wasn't a trick guy. It was.
Dude. Really. You ever have the driveways that are next to each other, but they're separated by a patch of ground, so there's 2 neighbors that have their driveways, and you can hit one driveway and land, and then land in the next driveway, dude.
Like a mini tabletop. Like a mini tabletop.
Yeah.
Yep. As long as a mailbox wasn't sticking out, you'd be okay. Yeah. And usually they were. And sometimes you'd hit them too.
Yeah.
So.
No, I would literally be driving in a car, and I could see different transitions from driveways, curbs, and I think, I'm going to come back and hit that. You know what I mean? I wonder if I could jump that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right, I'm going to go on to the next topic, guys. I'm going to talk a little bit about.
So this goes back to. Yeah.
Go ahead, Danny. Were you saying something?
No, go ahead, Danny.
Okay.
Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
All right, so we're going to go on to Mike Miranda for a second. So Mike Miranda, obviously one of our favorite riders. He's got the biggest podcast, most popular podcast, in the Dirty Knobs podcast. I found an ad here for Mike on Hut, which you guys can see right here.
Okay.
And then in the same issue, Mike won the Nora Cup. So that was the #1 rider of the year. award selected by all the subscribers and so forth to BMX Action. My question for you guys is, was Mike Miranda catching the factory sponsors from CW, Hutch, all the, Torker, because of his popularity as a rider, or was it because of his skill level? I don't think Mike has the titles, but Mike is a great racer, but he's also a phenomenal jumper though. And he's got crazy style, which makes him super photogenic in the magazine. So I'm wondering, what do you guys take on that? Was Mike was it a popularity contest for Mike, or where was he at on that? And don't get mad at me, Mike. I'm just making a topic.
Mike was on last week.
Don't get mad, Mike. It's just a topic. I think you're right. I'm just saying that.
I think that he was.
Huh?
I think that he was all-encompassing athlete in the sport, where he represented. He was fast enough to be on factory teams. He was a popular and a respected member of the sport that helped grow the sport. Was he the fastest rider? Probably not, and he probably agree with that. But he was fast enough. He's in the Hall of Fame. That's all that counts, right?
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
What do you think, Danny V?
Well, okay. Not knowing Mike personally, I've got mad respect for him and all his accomplishments. I do think there's a portion of this, or that you could be at the right place at the right time. I mean, look at Brad Pitt. They found him walking through a park, and all of a sudden so you can have outstanding luck, but if you have ability to go with it, more power to you. It's going to help you up the food chain. So I think maybe, not knowing any of this, just going off what you guys are saying, he probably had tremendous luck coupled with pretty great ability. And the timing can make or break a lot of people. So I'd say that's a percentage of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think his riding ability is definitely, we can't dispute that. He was a great rider. But, he doesn't have the titles, but he does have, he got a lot of coverage, guys. He was in every magazine, and I know it was mainly because of his riding style, his ability, and his jumping ability was just nuts.
He was a fantastic jumper. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, and Mike, I don't know. So for some reason, this dude's one of my favorite racers, and he wasn't even like a title. Do
you know what? I just found this out a couple years ago. Do you know what Nora stands for?
Is it National Number One Rider Award? Is that what it is?
Yeah. Or Racer Award.
Oh, wow.
Racer Rider.
I never knew that. Nora Cup.
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
I never knew that a couple years ago.
Oh, for real?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
There's one picture of Mike. I was going to bring this up to you guys, and I can't. It's in BMX Action, and I believe Scott Clark had a practice gate, and they featured it in the magazine. And at the time, Mike was on CW, and he had this weird sidewinder stance on the gate that was just so killer looking. I'm going to try to find that picture, Kevin, and I'll send it to you. But he has like this cockeyed, like he's on the gate, but he's kind of like cockeyed like this, kind of like a sidewinder look. It's freaking rad. And I remember I was at a local race, and there was this kid in front of me. He was probably 17, and I was waiting for my turn. It was gate practice, and he goes, "Man, check out this Mike Miranda start, guys!" And he got in that position, and he snapped out hella clean. And I'm like, damn, I tried to do it, and I just couldn't hold my balance. But I thought it was really cool.
That's interesting. I don't know.
I got to ask Mike about that, or maybe you can, Kevin, and say, "Hey, dude, show us your stance."
Well, what did you offer your opinion? I can't remember. Did you have your opinion? If it was it racing, or was it his personality, or what do you think?
For me?
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you my opinion is Mike's ability to market himself is massive. And that's what made him a great ambassador, a great factory rider, because it's not just a matter of fact that he was fast, but, he definitely looked professional all the time. You didn't see him racing in jeans or in a flannel or anything like that. He was always looking super factory. And I think he said, Kevin, I think when we were talking to him, he mentioned that he tried to pattern himself after John Cruz, which is exactly the same way. John was super stylish and always looked professional. I think that's kind of a lot to do with it. And if you ever see Mike on any race footage or interviews in the 80s, he's just a super, he's got a lot of charisma, and it's just easy to like him. And I think that's what does it for him to this day. That's my opinion.
Number one rule as a sponsored rider is to sell bikes. You're not there for a popular. You're there to sell bikes, and I believe that he did that very well. Yeah,
that's it. All right, I got one more topic, guys. One more. How long have we been going, Kev?
45 minutes.
45 minutes. One more topic. Let's talk about the ABA Grands. So this is the ABA Grands 1985 or 86. ABA Grands, as we all know, biggest race of the year by far. No race is going to match that. Moto counts are through the roof. I don't know if you guys have ever just watched it streaming on YouTube. It's like all day long. It just doesn't end. You can just watch all day. For me, I usually watch it streaming on Friday night because I want to watch the Pro Spectacular. That's the best time to watch it. Because other than that, you're just going to watch moto after moto after moto after moto. But what my topic is this, guys. The Grands is always in Oklahoma. And the only reason I could think that the ABA does that, or USA BMX now, is because it's centrally located in the United States. So it's kind of like right in the middle. And I was wondering, would it be better for USA BMX to put it on a bigger venue? Like, why have it in Oklahoma? Why not Las Vegas? Or maybe Los Angeles? Or something big? Hell, I don't know. I just wanted to get your guys' idea on it. I think that they put on that race the best that they can. I think it's a great, entertaining race. I've never personally raced it, but I'm wondering what your guys' thoughts are on that.
Well,
where you at? Oh,
go ahead, Danny.
Go ahead. I'll be quick. No, sure. Are you asking about the venue for the 1986 event, or the current times they do it? Are you asking about that particular event? Why was it there in 1986?
Honestly, no. It's always in Oklahoma.
Okay,
yeah. So I just use this as kind of a platform for us to jump off of and get your thoughts on. Should it always be in Oklahoma? Does it make a difference to have it somewhere else? Would it make the race bigger? Would we attract more national sponsors if maybe it was somewhere else? I'm spitballing, of course, so I want to see what your guys' opinion is on that.
Well, I don't know how much politics, networking, businesses are dug into the head honchos of the sport, the movers and shakers and whoever controls media and so forth. So I would say there's multiple factors, but the big event like that, you would think like the Olympics, it could rotate around America, or its territories, to make it user friendly. A big city, obviously, some easy to reach, but that's my extent of understanding. I would just guess maybe politics, maybe long-time businesses doing business at that event. I don't know. That's my guess, though, to your question. So
I know that they bring in a ton of revenue into Oklahoma during that race weekend because it's like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It goes for 4 days because it's during the Thanksgiving holiday. And it's one of the reasons why I've never gone to it, because Thanksgiving is kind of a big deal with my family. So I can't disappear and go to a race, So anyway, what do you think, Kevin, on that? How do you feel about it?
So you're telling me that the ABA Grands have always been held in Oklahoma since day one?
I don't know since day one, but 99% of the time, yeah. It's going to be
83, 81, whatever. It's always been in Oklahoma.
Yes.
Wow.
So that's probably why they moved the Hall of Fame to Oklahoma, because that's where the Grands are, right?
Yeah, they moved all the entire headquarters there.
Yeah.
From Arizona to Oklahoma.
Yeah, I would think that it's probably geographic location. It's in the center of the country, and that it's so embedded now that it's just a part of the city every year, I would assume. And there's probably some sort of politics involved with it. But I have no idea. I've never been to a Grands. I've
Yeah.
never raced the Grands. I've never even watched the Grands. So I
Right.
don't know.
If you were Kevin, if you were the promoter of this race, and they said, Kevin, we're hiring you, USA BMX. You're now the promoter of our national series. Is there any? I know you're not much into the modern thing anymore.
Right.
But what do you think you would do differently with the way USA BMX runs the sport currently? Stumped you on. Sorry, man, my bad.
No. Scared Danny off, dude.
I scared him away.
Dude, I don't know. I would market more grassroots marketing. Oh, you're talking about just for the Grands, not just in general. For the Grands.
Let's just say in general, what do you think you would do different?
You got to get them when they're young, and you got to get them when they're young, and that's all.
Yeah.
That's all I can say is that it's rough with all the stuff that the kids have available for now for entertainment. I have no idea, dude. I wouldn't want that job for anything, dude. What would you do?
Well, honestly, I've thought about this before, dude, and I thought to myself, if I was to market my own races, and let's say not under the USA BMX umbrella, and I just did like one-off events. Now, I want to get your opinion on this because I could be way off, and I don't know the logistics of this. I don't know how possible this is, but if I did a one-off event, had my own track, and go, you have a buy-in, and we're going to go pro-am all day long. I like that idea. I like to see events where anybody can get in, let's say 15 years or older, everybody does a buy-in, and we race for cash. And we could like separate those age groups if we had to, and go, all right, I mean, 15 to 20, go 21 to 28, 28 to 35, you know what I mean? And just separate it out and just do one big event where these guys are all racing for cash on kind of an underground type of thing, as opposed to doing it under the USA BMX umbrella. Would that work? Would anybody even show up to that? Would anybody have buy-in to that? I mean, what do you think about that?
Okay, now you sparked my brain. What I would do was, I think that Dirty Fest and Frogtown have set the mark where it is possible to have a successful race.
Event. Yeah.
I would say, oh, Danny's coming back.
Oh, is he?
A call cut me off. Sorry, guys.
That's okay. So I would think that that Dirty Fest and Frogtown show that there's a market for old school BMX. So I would say, let's expand upon that. Let's get US. I think they are involved with Dirty Fest. I think that Dirty Fest is partially involved with US BMX, whatever, just for the insurance aspect and that type of thing.
Yeah,
they are involved partly, but I would totally lean into that if I was the US BMX and my BMX. Do a whole series across the country of old school BMX racing and that type of thing. Because let's be honest, who has all the money? It's us, right?
Right.
They're paying for all this shit. You got to have cash. So I think that would be great, and that would bring the older guys back in, and maybe rejuvenate the sport a little bit. So I would make 5 Dirty Fests, 6 Dirty Fests a year all across the country.
Yeah.
And grow it that way. So I guess that's my idea.
Yeah, so that's kind of on the lines of what I'm thinking is if we break out of the mold that we're in right now, which don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to break, it's not broken, I'm not trying to fix it, but I'm just thinking of other avenues that can be explored. Because if you want to attract a lot of people, and Dirty Fest, Frogtown, that definitely does it. But, if you have this massive pro-am where people can get involved and just race it, and will it survive? Can you do something like that without USA BMX, or are you going to get sued? I don't know. It's just stuff that I've thought about in my head.
You got to have that insurance. What do you think? What do you think, Danny, about that?
I like, excuse me. I like the idea of rotating it around, so easier access for different places. Like a tour. I think that's cool. I'm looking forward to going to the one in Temecula. Just let me know when that happens. I'd love to check it out. You know, bring my chick up, walk around, check it out.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
we're looking forward to that. When is it? When is it, you guys?
In June, isn't
June
it?
7th and 8th or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, cool,
Thursday,
cool.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
That's going to be
Yeah.
cool. I'm looking forward to at least a day there. Yeah. I look forward to hanging out with you guys. That'll be cool. So
That'd be cool, dude. So I guess I would also make it easier to open a track. I mean, I gotta think that it's probably a pain in the ass to open a track, right? All the requirements that you have to have, and land surveys, and the requirements for double fences and
insurance,
that whatever. You know, if you make it easier to open up a track, you have more tracks, and you got more tracks, you got more riders, probably.
Right. I just love to see it. I anytime I go to a race and there's a pro-am, it's so fun, man. I'm going to tell you, like,
what is a pro-am? I don't even know. What are you talking about?
So pro-am is where, let's say you go to a state race, a state qualifier race, and they'll put a pro-am up there. So the pro-am, they're racing for cash. You could be amateur or pro. Now there is requirements though for you to race in the pro-am. You have to race your regular class. So I'm like 54 years old. So let's say I'm racing 54X, but I have to race my class in order to race in the pro-am. So you have to do both. And that part kind of like diminishes it, because, you know, we don't have a lot of gas in the tank, dude. So like I can't do 2 races. I'm going to be gassed out. Because they did a 40 and over pro-am in Roseville last year or the year before. And it was exciting, dude. I went and I watched these guys going at it, and I'm like, look at these dudes racing for cash, and they're legit fast. It was awesome. So that's why I'm thinking if we had.
You're saying, like, so you have to be old. So a 15-year-old can't race the pro-am, or they can, or it all depends about who comes up with the pro-am. They can set their own terms.
Yeah, not only can they do it, but they can do it well, because these kids are fast, dude. They're not like we are.
They have to be experts. Can us, and do they have to win their class? So if I'm at a national or a regular race and I'm a 16 novice now, I think they call them novice now. I'm a 16 novice. Do I have to win the 16 novice main to get into pro-am?
Nope, you just sign up for it. You're like, I want to race pro-am.
Pro.
Yeah, so it's just like racing an open. You're like, hey, I'm going to race the pro-am. Now, if you're a 16 novice and you're signing up for pro-am, the chances of you winning the pro-am is pretty slim, because these guys are all experts.
I just want to make sure I had the question framed right.
Yeah, so that's why I brought that topic up, is could we have a series where we just have, you know, cash, race for cash, and maybe we break it into age groups, but the age groups are going to be much broader, and, you know, you have, like, let's say a $50 buy-in and you're in, and they start breaking it down like that. I don't know if that's a possibility. I'm sure people are going to comment, Kev, and we'll get some feedback on it, but I was just throwing that out there. See what you thought about it.
You scared Danny again, dude. He left.
Anyway, man, that's all I got for tonight, man. That was a pretty good first run at our little collaboration.
Dude, I like the pro-am, dude. Now that turns me on. So if I was good, because let's be honest, dude, there is a small chance that a beginner or an intermediate could take it, right? Because there could be a crash, there could be all kinds of different things. It is possible, not necessarily winning. If you're racing for money, you can pick up a third, you can pick up a second. So that would be cool. I mean, I would like to do that, man. That would sound fun.
Hey, would you rather race for cash or a trophy? You know, I mean, think about it. I mean, I trophies used to be everything to me, but now I'm like, well, you know, I just go for fun now. I mean, if I win, I win. If I don't, I don't. I don't care anymore. It's just because I like the experience of being out there, getting some great photos. That's all it's all about to me now. But anyway, man, it's just something to think about. You know, and that was great topics tonight, by the way, man. I hope
another sterling performance by Danny. Thank you, Danny. I appreciate it, man. That was so awesome. And if I want to apologize if I offended anybody. I probably got a couple things wrong. I'll blame it on Wikipedia. But I want to thank everybody for stopping by. Thank you very much for watching. Please do not hesitate to check out Danny's YouTube channel where he reviews BMX bikes or BMX racing and BMX magazines such as this that he did tonight. And he can be found at Danny Pena BMX Racing on YouTube. Check him out and subscribe. And both of us will be at Dirty Fest, broadcasting, interviewing, and that type of thing. So if you see us at Dirty Fest, please try not to hurt us or
don't hurt it.
please be nice to us. I'm a little scared. People being like, "Hey, man, you're always wrong." But seriously, thank you very much for coming on, Danny. Appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to support Danny's channel, go ahead and check out Danny Pena BMX Racing and subscribe to his channel. If you'd like to support the BMX podcast, you could go to BMXPodcast.com and you could grab a shirt and subscribe or a hat up there on my website as well. Thank you very much again for watching. And until next week, Danny, the track is closed, right?
That's it.
All right, guys. Peace out. Thanks. And thank you very much for Danny V for joining us, even though he bowed out early. Thank you very much, Danny.
See you later.
Peace out, man.